I just took a shower, and my shower thoughts um, were about things that I had forgotten to talk about. In that, my feelings on anti-Semitism in architecture. So, like when we are at work, we talk about how bad the working experience is, and then someone will say, well, it could be worse. And then people in general will be like, in the 21st century, um, statistically, everything is better, including misogyny and um, like murder rates, everything that's like violent and like cerebral. But the thing is, that's the wrong way to interpret um, like the situation as a postmodernist, but also in a postmodern situation of which everything under capitalism is. And I don't even like to talk about capitalism, so that's like it for this video. We need to be comparing every worksite situation to um, the labor that had been done in Auschwitz-Birkenau, because it's the only correct way to straight up do a postmodern interpretation of working conditions. When we like postmodernism is all about deconstructing, and so you wouldn't want to construct a comparison to your working conditions that are better. You would want to deconstruct them to something that is like the worst, but also the standard for the worst, so that there's not like multiple versions of bad, because that's where the the criticism fails. You can't openly um, you can't present an alternative to the working conditions that you're under, um, because you're literally the embodiment of postmodern thought. You're not like we we fragment the self, we fragment society. Everything's hyper individualistic, and um, like just that everything is hyper individualistic, you have to get straight to the point immediately. Um, you're going to deconstruct to working conditions that represent the um, ultimate labor. Um, there's some sort of communist sentiment here, but it's that like your labor needs to be valuable. However, it needs to be like, I'm not talking about it's like value to like contribute to society, because there's no like a lot of modern labor in like civilized countries is like the consequence of like strategically underemploying the public. But the thing is, you still inherently need to have meaning in your work, because even though you're a deconstructed self, there has to be something that allows you to manage the working conditions of like being in this struggle in the first place. And postmodernism doesn't, like, unless you're literate, you don't benefit from postmodern. Like, your internal reality is going to be really hard, like really difficultly felt, if you literally don't know anything about what's going on, because you have to be able to justify the bad experiences that you're having. And everything under modernity is about deconstruction. So it's like you have to always be ahead of the curve, attempting to deconstruct the yet deconstructed. Um, but if you're like, oh, I'm enjoying my work, but like you're being underemployed, you're completely fucked. And so like there's this like ignorance from the employer that they want you to believe in, and like that's not okay, but it is necessary. um, Given that everything's like a postmodern circumstance now, you have to play your role as a operator, as an individual in postmodern society. And so like given that you have to do that, the manager being bad to you like makes sense, and then you taking it makes sense, and then you just dying off because the working conditions are that bad makes sense. um, Having said that, that's you as a worker, you as a postmodern theorist, like doing a criticism. What you have to propose is that everyone has to eventually get on board to correctly seeing what's going on. And you don't aspire, stop aspiring. um, like the Jews fundamentally don't believe God exists. It's just a collective reaction to, it's a collective approach that's a reaction to being othered really fucking hard. So like engage with the idea that God exists, but like don't allow it to go so far that you actually start thinking that God exists. And so like I don't know anything about Islam. I don't care to know. um like I do care to know, it's just not important to me right now. um Catholicism, throw it all away. um Judaism's impressive, but the thing is, fundamentally, um God doesn't exist. Use it as a like as a meaningful construct. Like this monotheistic God doesn't exist. What we should be serving as postmodernists is paganism. The like what are you deconstructing to? Like you're gonna have to go to like a like into a like free state type of situation, and like the Holocaust is just such a good, it's such a good tool to analyze the world from, because it serves to educate the public about anti-Semitism, which is really important in postmodern criticism, in postmodern theory, because you can't escape like postmodernism and the Jewish identity are one to one. And so with that in mind, like I keep talking about this, like having a little device on you that like literally allows you to like it just allows you to do things. I'm not even going to explain myself, but like in Canada we have you can get euthanized, which is like a very effective alternative to living in postmodern society if you're not willing to do the work, or if you are willing to do the work, because actually being euthanized is a very postmodern, it's almost trendy to euthanize yourself in the postmodern condition, because fighting the patriarchy is not literally fighting the patriarchy, it's like stealing resources through tax-paying dollars into a very serious victimhood. And so you could just end your life as a form of protest, which is significant historically, but also like in a postmodern sense. But like you always have to get to the base of things, or like the root of things immediately. And so this device should allow you to literally, like there should be like a button on it, or like some sort of like, yeah, some sort of digital button, or like just on this, like however you say it, there's a mode and it's like euthanize. And so it immediately you get a doctor's appointment and they evaluate you to be euthanized. And then if you pass, you just get euthanized. And the reason for this is like this idea of like identity politics, which I don't believe in, um, is based on like ethnographic research where you have to give space to like the group that like is outside of the colonial hand, so that you can like this is very archeological or very anthropological. Um, the You have to give this little toy device to literally everyone who's practicing identity politics, to reduce their numbers. It's not it's not okay to steal fucking taxes, like tax-paying dollars, from the public. Um, our welfare program, like living in a welfare state, living in a workers' state, like we shouldn't have homelessness. You should have psych wards open. Um, you should have job placement. Um, the poor, like we shouldn't be trying to make the poor, like you shouldn't, like you have to ethically create slavery. Okay, there, like and okay, so Nietzsche speaks about how God is dead, morals and ethics are gone, everything's a matter of aesthetic taste. Okay, my aesthetic taste is just to openly call someone a slave and give them um a meaningful life, not to institutionally deny them human rights. Being homeless is a violation of human rights. Being poor is a violation of human rights. Being working class is a violation of human rights. What we should do, we need to figure out a way to literally be able to force the public, force the working class, the poor and the homeless to work without paying them and just giving them the living conditions necessary to do labor. We have to get over this, the postmodernists aren't, no one's figured out how to do this. It seems very straightforward. Like we've already had labor camps. So like, and you barely get paid at a labor camp, but why are you even getting paid at all? Um, like Foucault really got to something, how he talked about like institutionalized labor and how like having like a extremely obedient workforce in the case of like the penitentiary system was useful to the bourgeoisie because it literally allowed the bourgeois to like have this constant sense that labor is being done on their behalf, regardless of if in public that was the case, just so that they could outcompete everyone, um, like outcompete the non-bourgeois that are not in the penitentiary system. But the thing is, like as a postmodernist, you have to take things to its logical conclusion, which means just openly tell, like, let's just openly make the policies that serve postmodernism, which is like we fundamentally don't need like, and this all comes back to economics and like I guess land ownership, but just like, and not class structure. It has to do with like, I think it just has to do with like having a strong kingdom. It's not tasteful, in my opinion, um, to live with homeless people, to live with poor people, to live with the working class. Um, I would much rather have like a really strong middle class or a really strong working class than um, like an extremely retarded elite, that literally can only design their lives whereby like a like a really fucked up type of slavery, is occurring, it doesn't